Yo, what's going on, believers? Happy Sunday. Happy second half. Happy third quarter. Not sure if I had said all of these things in the last video, but just wanted to give a proper greeting. And we're going to, I'm going to do a review of last month. Gonna just skip last week, to be honest, because last week I didn't do the due diligence of speaking about the entire month. So I'll go ahead and do the review for the month. I don't have an outlook for the month, but I guess I can see if I have some sort of a outlook for the upcoming week or the week that's already begun. And one thing that was just on my mind to mention is about time and how without time nothing else really matters. Time to me means opportunity for learning, for growth, for change. And so I feel like all of those things are necessary to have a fulfilled and happy life. But that should have given you enough time to read over the risk disclaimer here. And so I'm going to pull up the economic calendar. Let's get to it. And so I've gotten pretty accustomed to the investing.com calendar now. It's actually pretty simple. What I was mentioning was that it just shows more of what's really going on. It's not leaving out anything as far as potential catalysts for volatility in the marketplace, and I'm all about that. So for this week in particular, the highlight is going to be CPI, which is Wednesday. So here, 7:30 Central. On Wednesday, there's going to be CPI, so inflation-related news. Thursday, following up CPI is always PPI, and so here's that same time the following day, as well as unemployment claims, which is always on Thursday. And then Friday, typically after CPI and PPI, there's some other inflation related news. And so I'm seeing that at 9 o'clock and also a couple of things at 7:30. And so I do want to, since I'm going to be talking about the month, also highlight not the week after this week, but the following week. So that last week of July. I want to highlight that. And then we'll get to it. So that Monday, nothing crazy, but definitely more inflation related news from the producer side. Inflation related news here on Tuesday. This right here, the interest rate decision, is going to be one of the main focal points for me for the whole month. Seeing how it's just a few days before the end of the month, this could be the determining factor for how the monthly candles, well, how the monthly candle closes for July across the board in multiple different assets. But that's just pretty much the lay of the land as far as the fundamentals are concerned. I've mentioned before that I'm not in no way, shape, or form an expert when it comes to the fundamentals. I just understand that these different news releases are smoke and mirrors as far as the effect they have on the marketplace, but I do like that they have an effect. They bring volatility, that means opportunity. And so I'm always keeping myself in the loop as far as what's going on with the economic calendars and around the world with different countries' financial policies and things like potential WAR, all of these things are important because they have the potential to affect the fluctuations of price and markets. Now, spent a few minutes here with the risk disclaimer and the economic calendar. Let's just dive into the charts, talk about some levels, and then wrap this up. So, what I want to do is start with the monthly chart, of course, because, like I said, want to just briefly talk about last month. So, I'll start going through the monthly time frame on the assets that I tend to focus on. So, here on the dollar index, the monthly chart, focal point. So, May, just up close candle. My up close candles are black. June, if you're looking at the crosshair, as I slide it from the high to the low of last month of June's candle, it's inside of May. So this is what I'd call it inside bar, simply meaning that the price action that happened in May, the highs and the lows, like the main high and the main low, like the extremes of that month, were not engaged last month. And so far, as far as July is concerned, it also has not just yet. It's only been a week, and it was a shortened week because of the holiday here in the States. But it also has not engaged the high or the low of last month. And so I suspect both levels are going to be super sensitive, and how price reacts if and when it gets to one of the two levels, and eventually it will have to get to one or the other. The price action that follows is going to be very significant to me for my analysis for what may happen in the next following days, weeks, potentially months. And so this the dollar index. So always I like to look at the mini S&P. The tough part here, and I'm gonna not actually use these data feeds because these are the quarterly contracts and they don't show a lot of data. And so what I'm gonna do is actually use the continuous contract, and what I'm just noticing here, and just to show you that it does show a lot more data with the continuous contract, right? But so far for July, inside of last month's trading, but last month was a nice bullish candle, nice expansion, took out this swing high on the monthly, closed above it. So I'd have to say, as far as not trying to pick a top or call the reversal and go against a monthly expansion, I would definitely need to see a lot of clues for this to convince me it's going to be a bearish month, and then that's just the same across the board. Same thing with Nasdaq, right? Nice bullish expansion, but as you can see, Nasdaq had been having some really bullish months heading into June, and so similar to how these candles here all have that tail at the bottom. That's basically what could potentially be happening here, as it is moving lower at the beginning of the month. By the end of the month, it could end up higher. Even if it's not a big candle and it's just like this, it could still end up flipping all of this green, getting back above the opening price of the month, and then closing as an up close candle. That's very possible. So I'm not trying to pick the tops here and call a reversal. It just seems that the thing that's going to really be convincing to me is going to be bullish dollar. So technically, what I'm seeing here is it's just consolidation. But once I put the, I guess I'll just do it now, which is I've had these same levels for a while now. So it's in between these two monthly inefficiencies. So it's just consolidating here. So I would need to see the dollar make a decision, bullish or bearish, for me to really try to formulate any long-term ideas when it comes to the stock indices. But then the last one, of course, YM for Dow Jones. This is also like dollar on the monthly chart, been in the consolidation. So not too much analysis as far as using the monthly chart here, right? And then, like I said, we already looked at NASDAQ and ES. And so we'll just keep it there. Those are like the main things that I focus on. But gold, GU, EU, UJ, I've been showing them a little bit more love lately. But just to try to keep this short and sweet, I'll just keep it to dollar, and I'm gonna also just slim it down to dollar and the E-mini S&P. But so again, those are those monthly levels. If I pull up ES, nothing really, like I said, to work with. I do like this swing high on the monthly chart, taken out and close above. So this level could be sensitive as well. So let me just go ahead and note that here. And now I want to current interval and below. So it could potentially come down into this range, right? Retest this high, see if I can find me some opportunities with this idea as potential support. But I'll need time of day and other factors to really aid with my confidence in that being a setup that's worth taking. But let's get back to the dollar real quick, drop down to the weekly. And so as far as the weekly is concerned, these are the same levels as well that have been shown. This inefficiency here, I'm not a big fan of how it stabbed through it, although the bodies have been respecting it. So can't complain about that. That just simply means that this level to me is still of significance, and I just want to see if it holds or if price wants to get back to it. Will it then potentially flip from resistance to support, allowing for a run higher with the first pool of buy side that I'd be taking seriously about how price responds if and when it gets there would be the high from May. Yes, on the weekly. So there is, of course, still this weekly. There is the liquidity void, and then there's also the volume imbalance. And so this actually, this darker yellow is the liquidity void, just meaning there was no trading there. There's no wick or candle body within that range. So that's still a likely draw if dollar it does fail to show any significant strength, which would have then allowed for lower prices. But just looking at it again from the weekly chart, so last week closed within the week before that's range, and so far this week is inside of last week's range. But again, it's just the first handful of hours for the week, and it's sitting inside of this weekly inefficiency that it did close above 2 weeks ago, dropped back down into the range to the midpoint essentially last week, and now this week opened up just around that midpoint. So the midpoint here at 44.28 is going to be a level that I'm keeping in mind, as well as the overall range from 2 weeks ago. That high and low are going to both be sensitive, and I want to see what type of price action is shown after one of those levels is traded to. And then going down to the daily, so I actually am seeing the dollar in between two points of reference that could both end up being a catalyst for it moving sideways. But ICT teaches this concept called breakers. And so I believe this up close candle here has the potential to be a bearish breaker, just meaning that it would allow for, no, sorry, excuse me. This level would be a bullish breaker, but price is now currently, well, it's already violated it because it closed below. So the actual level that I want to use, high low, higher high. So actually, so yeah, this candle here, which was already marked up as a potential bearish breaker, meaning that once price actually closes below it, which it did on Friday, it should act as resistance, keeping price lower. And if it performs its job well underneath this low and into this daily inefficiency to actually fill it all the way up to the high, this candle would be an area or a likely move this week on a dollar, in my opinion. And there's also another breaker in here that is from a little bit further back that price has yet to actually get below, and that's this breaker over here. And so it's currently still inside of the range of this breaker with, like I said, this bearish breaker now on the upper portion of it. So I'm very curious to see which one will ultimately prove to be the more influential on the price of the dollar, be it this bearish breaker here, sending it lower, or since price is already inside this bullish breaker, to see if it has a unwillingness to go any lower. The only way that I could really see the bullish breaker being the more influential is literally if this has already printed the low of the week here, or potentially some point with CPI or PPI a run below this low here after Monday's trading, because I would confirm this as a swing low, and then later in the week a quick run on the sell side liquidity below that to then rip it higher. But again, these are just hypothetical scenarios. I don't have much of an outlook. I really need to see what type of price action happens after the CPI and the PPI releases. Those are going to be really crucial for my analysis moving into the rest of the month. ES daily chart. So those same levels right from the weekly being monitored, that same fib from the weekly being monitored. Um, Nice reaction around that 50% level 2 times. This candle so far, right, opened up above it. It's also interacted with the midpoint. And so I want to see within these two yellow lines, if it has any willingness to get there, what type of price action, right, follows. This gray line here is, of course, that monthly swing high. So that's right within that range as well. Should be a sensitive level, but time will tell. And as far as the outlook is concerned, that's pretty much it. So I just want to shout out to the believers, shout out to the dreamers, shout out to the homies that inspire me to be better each and every day. I will have at least one or two live price commentaries, live price analysis, or whatever I decide to officially call it. But y'all have some more videos coming for y'all later on in the week, and we'll keep you guys in the loop as far as if anything changes about my analysis for the month of July. So I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all be safe, man. Peace.